The prison encounter asterisk the air inside the dark underground auction hall was thick with smoke and whispers. Strange lights flickered above, casting shadows across hundreds of cages. Inside these cages were beings from many alien worlds, some rare, some wounded, some terrified. Ethan, a human officer from the Galactic Peace Force, walked slowly through the market. He wore a hooded cloak to hide his face. His mission was clear: collect evidence of the illegal slave trade happening here. But what he saw made his stomach twist. Merchants shouted prices. Buyers inspected prisoners like animals. Every corner of this place smelled of fear. Ethan's heart pounded. He hated being here, but this mission could help bring down one of the biggest criminal syndicates in the galaxy. As he moved quietly, a soft voice stopped him. "Sir?" Ethan turned his head toward a small cage hidden in the corner. Inside sat a tiny alien girl, no more than 6 years old. Her skin was pale lavender, and her big glowing blue eyes stared at him with a strange mix of sadness and hope. She clutched the bars of her cage tightly. "Can I have a dad now, please?" she whispered. The words hit Ethan like a punch to the chest. He froze for a moment. He forgot his mission. He simply stared at her innocent face. Behind her, inside the same cage, sat an adult alien woman, her mother. She was thin, bruised, but held herself with quiet strength. Her long silver hair hung over her shoulders, and her green eyes met Ethan's with cautious hope. The girl spoke again, softer this time. "Please, I want a dad." Ethan swallowed hard. "What's your name?" "Little one, Lana," the girl whispered. "And that's my mommy." Ethan's eyes darted around. The guards were distracted, talking to buyers. The auction was about to start. The criminal lords would be here soon. He knelt beside the cage and lowered his voice. "How long have you been here?" The mother spoke gently. "We were captured weeks ago. They plan to sell us to private collectors. Once that happens, we will disappear forever." Ethan clenched his jaw. This wasn't part of his mission. He was only supposed to collect information, but seeing this child's face, hearing her call him Dad, his instinct screamed. He couldn't walk away. "Stay calm," Ethan said softly. "I'm going to help you." Before the mother could respond, loud drums echoed through the hall. The auction was starting. The merchants called for attention. The first cage was rolled onto the central stage. Ethan knew time was running out. He slipped into a nearby maintenance corridor. There, he hacked into a control panel, disabling the security cameras in the back section. The lights flickered briefly. Then, he activated a small explosive charge and placed it against a powered junction. Back in the auction hall, as the auctioneer shouted bids, the wall behind the cages suddenly shook with a loud explosion. Smoke filled the air. Alarms blared. Buyers screamed and ran for cover. Chaos erupted. Guards pulled out blasters, shouting commands. Ethan moved fast. Using the confusion, he rushed back to Lana's cage, pulling out a plasma cutter from under his cloak. The mother stared at him in shock. "Who are you?" "Someone who won't let you stay in this cage," Ethan answered quickly. Sparks flew as he sliced through the metal bars. The door fell open. "Come on," Ethan shouted. The mother grabbed Lana and followed him as guards rushed in. Blaster fire lit up the smoke-filled air. Ethan fired back, striking one guard, then another. The mother moved quickly, carrying Lana tightly in her arms. They ran through the back corridors, climbing over crates, ducking under falling pipes. Sirens screamed around them. At one turn, 2 more guards blocked their way. Ethan fired first, taking them down, but more footsteps echoed. Behind them, "We won't make it." The mother gasped. Double quotes, "Yes, we will," Ethan said firmly. "The extraction point is close." They reached a hidden exit where a small escape shuttle waited, its engines humming. Ethan pulled open the hatch. "Get in." The mother climbed aboard. With Lana, Ethan fired a few last shots to slow the guards, then jumped into the pilot's seat. The ship lifted off quickly, rising through a narrow tunnel. Blaster shots bounced off the hull as they soared into the night sky. Inside the shuttle, the mother held Lana close, tears streaming down her face. Ethan glanced back. "Are you both all right?" The mother nodded, her voice shaking. "Yes. You saved us?" Lana looked at him with those same glowing blue eyes. "Does this mean I have a dad now?" Ethan smiled softly, his voice warm. "You do now." But even as the stars stretched before them, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The criminal lords would not forget this rescue, and their hunt had already begun. Asterisk the risky rescue asterisk the small shuttle flew fast through the dark sky, weaving between tall metal towers as alarms echoed behind them. Searchlights from patrol ships swept across the landscape, hunting for them inside the cockpit. Ethan gripped the controls tightly, his eyes stayed sharp, scanning for any incoming threats. The stolen shuttle was fast, but not designed for long escapes. The enemy would soon catch up. The alien mother, Mira, sat behind him, still holding Lana tightly in her arms. Lana's small head rested against her shoulder, but her eyes were wide and alert. "We're safe now, right?" Lana asked softly. Ethan glanced back, forcing a smile. "For now, but they'll come after us." Mira's voice was calm, but serious. "The ones you angered tonight, they are powerful." "I know," Ethan said. "The Syndicate doesn't forgive anyone who steals from them." Mira's green eyes met his. "You risked everything for us." Why? Ethan paused for a moment, gripping the controls tighter. "Because when I saw her, calling me Dad, I couldn't walk away." The shuttle sensors beeped suddenly. Several ships were closing in fast from behind. "They're here," Ethan muttered. "Hang on." He pushed the shuttle into a sharp dive, dodging between canyons. Bright laser beams lit up the night as enemy patrol ships fired. Inside, Lana squeezed her eyes shut. Holding her mother's hand tightly, Mira covered her daughter protectively. Ethan used every trick he knew: sharp turns, steep climbs, and sudden drops to escape the hunters. But their ships were stronger, and soon more joined the chase. "They're cutting us off," Mira shouted. "Not yet," Ethan said, flipping several switches. "We're going underground, ahead." A narrow cave opened into the mountains. With perfect timing, Ethan guided the shuttle into the dark tunnel, barely fitting through the entrance. The Syndicate ships fired wildly, but missed as the shuttle disappeared inside. For several tense minutes, they flew through twisting underground passages. The walls glowed softly with natural crystals, lighting their way. Finally, they reached a large open cavern. Ethan landed the shuttle near a hidden platform. "This will give us some time," he said, shutting down the engines. Mira exhaled deeply, still holding Lana close. "We won't be safe for long. They will track us." Ethan turned to face them. "Then we keep moving. But first, I need to know who I'm protecting." Mira hesitated for a moment, then slowly spoke. "My name is Mira. My people live peacefully. Before the Syndicate came, they took control of our planet's trade routes, and when we resisted, they enslaved many of us." Ethan listened carefully. "I worked in one of their medical labs," Mira continued. "They forced me to study hybrid children, those born from human and alien parents." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "There are others like Lana." Mira nodded. "Yes, but most were taken, sold to private collectors, or vanished. Lana and I escaped for years, hiding from their hunters, until they finally caught us." Ethan looked at Lana. The little girl sat quietly, watching him with those bright blue eyes full of trust. "And her father?" Ethan asked softly. Mira's voice dropped. "I don't know who he was. The Syndicate forced many of us into breeding programs. Some were humans, some from other species. I was lucky to keep Lana with me, but she's always wanted to know her." Father Ethan's chest tightened. He saw the hope in Lana's eyes when she first called him Dad. She had never known what a father was. "You may not be her real father," Mira whispered, "but she feels something with you." Ethan knelt beside Lana. "Listen to me, little one. I may not have been there when you were born, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Lana smiled softly and threw her arms around his neck. "You are my dad." Mira's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled to Dot. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped again. A soft warning flashed across the console. "They're scanning the caves," Ethan said quickly. "They'll find us soon." Mira stood firmly. "There's only one place left where we might be safe." "Where?" Ethan asked. "The refuge," Mira answered. "A hidden camp where some hybrids live in secret. But it's far, across the wastelands." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Then that's where we're going." Mira nodded. "The journey will be dangerous. The bounty hunters won't stop." Ethan looked at Lana, who held his hand tightly. "Let them come. We'll protect each other." They hurried back into the shuttle, preparing for the next leg of their escape. Far above, in the Syndicate's command center, a tall figure watched. Their movements on a holographic display activate every bounty hunter in the sector. The commander ordered coldly, "Bring me the hybrid girl and the human who stole her." The hunt was far from over. The secret passed asterisk. The shuttle sliced through the dusty orange sky as the sun began to rise. Over the endless wastelands, Strange rock formations stood like giant towers across the barren land, and violent windstorms kicked up thick clouds of sand. Behind them, inside the small ship, the mood was tense but quiet. Mira sat beside Ethan in the cockpit, carefully checking the map on her wrist device. Behind them, little Lana sat strapped into her seat, watching her new father with wide, curious eyes. Ethan kept his eyes locked on the scanners. How much farther to this refuge, he asked. 200 more clicks, Mira answered. Through dangerous ground. The Syndicate controls most of this territory. Ethan nodded. Then we stay low. He dipped the shuttle close to the ground, flying between deep canyons, hoping to avoid the Syndicate's long-range scanners. After a few minutes, Lana softly spoke from behind. Daddy. Ethan smiled gently and glanced back. Yes, sweetheart. Do you like me? His heart melted. I love you, Lana, very much. The child smiled brightly and clapped her little hands together. Mira's eyes softened as she watched them. Ethan glanced at Mira. She's strong. She had to be, Mira replied. We've been running since she was born. There was a moment of silence. Then Ethan asked softly, Mira, why are they so desperate to capture her? There are other hybrids, aren't there? Mira sighed deeply. Yes, but Lana is different. She opened a small compartment near her seat and pulled out a small glowing crystal. It shimmered softly in her hand. This is her blood sample, she explained. Lana's DNA is not just a simple mix of human and alien genes. Her cells show signs of adaptive evolution. Her body can resist toxins, heal faster, and even adapt to hostile environments. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? Mira's voice lowered. It means, if the Syndicate can control her genetics, they could create a new superior species, stronger than humans, stronger than any other race. They want to build an army. Ethan's face hardened. So that's why they call her valuable. Not because she's a child. Because she's a weapon. Mira nodded. Yes. Ethan looked back at Lana again, his chest tightening. She's just a little girl. She doesn't deserve any of this. Mira's voice was calm, but heavy. That's why I hid her all these years. But we can't run forever. Ethan gritted his teeth. That we don't run anymore. Suddenly, alarms blared inside the cockpit. Red lights flashed on the screen. Multiple ships approaching fast. Ethan shouted. Mira checked the scanner. They found us. Behind them, several Syndicate bounty ships closed in quickly. The Syndicate wasn't playing games anymore. This time, they sent heavy hunters' armored ships with plasma cannons. The chase began. Ethan pulled hard on the controls, diving the shuttle into narrow canyons as laser fire lit up the sky behind them. The ship shook under the pressure. Warning. Siren screaming. Lana screamed softly, but stayed strapped into her seat. Clutching her small hands together, Mira quickly activated the defense system, firing back with rear turrets. The energy blast struck one of the smaller hunters, sending it crashing into a cliff wall. But more came. They're everywhere. Ethan shouted. We must reach the rock fields. Mira yelled. The Syndicate ships can't follow us through there. Ethan pushed the engines harder, the shuttle shaking violently as they weaved between giant rock spires. The hunters followed, but struggled to maneuver. Two more hunters collided into stone towers and exploded, filling the air with smoke. But the lead Syndicate ship remained close, firing constantly. They're not giving up. Ethan growled. Mira quickly rerouted power to the shields, just a little farther. The shuttle dove into a tight canyon where the passage narrowed sharply. The Syndicate ship followed, but its larger size clipped the stone walls, ripping its wings off. The giant hunter exploded behind them in a fireball of light. The chase ended. For a moment, everything was silent again except for the sound of their heavy breathing. Ethan slowed the ship, flying over a wide-open valley beyond the rock fields. In the distance, small glowing domes appeared, hidden beneath tall alien trees. Mira smiled faintly. We made it. That's the refuge? Ethan asked. Yes, Mira answered softly. The only safe place left for hybrids like Lana. Ethan landed the shuttle near the entrance. Several hybrid guards approached, raising their weapons as they saw him step out. Mira raised her hand. He's with us. He saved us. The guards lowered their weapons cautiously. One of the elders approached, studying Ethan carefully. You brought a human here? The elder asked, voice stern. He is Lana's father, Mira said firmly. The elder studied Ethan's face for a long moment, then slowly nodded. If what you say is true, then you may stay, but the Syndicate won't stop. They will come here too. Ethan stood tall. Let them come. He looked at Lana, who ran to him, wrapping her tiny arms around his waist. Because this time, Ethan whispered softly, "We're ready." But deep above them, hidden far beyond the planet's moon, Syndicate warships gathered once again. The final battle was still to come. The chase across the waste. The refuge was quiet that night. Strange glowing flowers swayed gently under the tall alien trees. The hybrid families moved carefully through the camp, whispering softly. They all knew the danger was growing, inside a small shelter made of living vines. Ethan sat with Mira and Lana. A soft blue light glowed around them. Mira whispered, "The council believes the Syndicate will attack soon." Ethan nodded. "We need to prepare." The Elder Council had allowed Ethan to stay, but many hybrids still watched him with cautious eyes. Humans had rarely protected their kind, but as days passed, they saw how Ethan cared for Lana, not like a soldier, but like a father still. The threat was close. A scout rushed into the council meeting that evening, panting heavily. "The Syndicate is approaching, a full army." Panic spread through the camp. Ethan stood quickly. "We need to evacuate. Get the children to safety." The elder agreed. "There's an old escape path across the wastes. It's dangerous, but it's our only chance." Without wasting time, the families gathered their belongings. The children were loaded onto small hover sleds, hidden beneath blankets. Ethan carried Lana in his arms, while Mira walked beside him, her eyes constantly scanning the dark jungle around them. As they moved out, a few hybrid warriors led the way, guiding the group toward the wastelands. The wastelands were wild and dangerous. The ground was cracked and dry, filled with sharp rocks and steaming pits. Violent winds howled as strange alien creatures watched from the cliffs. Ethan whispered to Lana, "Don't be scared, sweetheart. We'll be okay." Lana nodded bravely. "I trust you, Daddy." But as they reached the open plains, distant engines roared behind them. The Syndicate had found them. Hover bikes and armed hunters poured across the hills. Chasing the slow-moving refugees, Ethan shouted to the others, "Keep moving. I'll slow them down." He handed Lana to Mira and ran back toward the cliffs with a small team of hybrid warriors. Using his military training, Ethan set up traps with explosives and energy nets. The first wave of bounty hunters rushed forward, firing blasters. But as they crossed the narrow pass, Ethan triggered the traps. Explosions rocked the cliffs, sending several hunters crashing into deep pits. The hybrids fired back with their plasma bows, striking several enemies down. But more came. Dozens of heavily armed hunters pushed through the smoke. Hover bikes zipped between the rocks, chasing the families. Ethan sprinted back toward Mira and Lana as blaster shots lit up the air. "We can't outrun them," one hybrid shouted. Mira's face grew hard. "There's another way." She led the group toward a narrow canyon known as the Razor Path, a dangerous shortcut full of sharp crystal spikes that could slice ships apart. "The hunters won't dare follow us here," Mira said as they moved inside the narrow pass. The hunters hesitated. Commander Varek, leader of the Syndicate's ground force, watched from a distance. His red armor gleamed under the twin suns. "They think we fear this place," he growled. "Fools. Send the air drones. Flush them out." Small flying drones zipped into the canyon, scanning for targets. Inside the Razor Path, the refugees moved carefully between towering crystal spikes. The air grew thick with dust. The drones approached fast. Ethan spotted them and raised his blaster. "Get down." He fired, striking one drone. The hybrids shot down to more, but a few drones slipped past and began firing small plasma bolts, trying to hit the children. Lana screamed and fell behind a rock. Ethan rushed to her side, pulling her into his arms as blasts struck nearby. "It's okay, sweetheart. I've got you." Mira fired her plasma bow, destroying the last drone. The path finally opened into a wide open basin. They had reached the other side. For a moment, silence returned, but far behind, Commander Varek's full army appeared on the cliffs. He raised his hand, signaling the final assault. "They won't stop," Mira whispered. "Not until they take her." Ethan stood tall. "That we fight." The hybrids quickly set up defenses around the basin. Ethan used old mining equipment and natural rock formations to build walls and traps. That night, under the cold alien stars, the small group of hybrids and one human father stood together, ready for the final battle. In the shadows, Varek smiled coldly. "Tomorrow, the child will be mine." The hybrid refuge. The night sky above the basin was filled with stars, but no one slept. The hybrid families moved quietly as Ethan and the warriors finished setting up defenses. Everyone knew what was coming. In the center of the camp, Mira and Ethan stood together, watching Lana sleep peacefully under a thermal blanket. Her small hands clutched the glowing crystal she always carried. Ethan whispered, "She doesn't even know how much danger she's in." Mira nodded. "I wish I could let her be a child, but she was born into a war." Ethan's face was hard. "We're ending that war tonight." Around them, the hybrid fighters prepared energy bows, blasters, and traps using strange living plants that wrapped themselves into tight knots when activated. Some used crystal shards as sharp weapons. This was not a strong army, but it was brave. Sora. One of the hybrid leaders approached. She looked at Ethan seriously. "You have done much to help us, but this is not your fight." Ethan stood tall. "It became my fight the moment she called me dad. I don't run from my family." Sora's eyes softened. "You may not be one of us by blood, human, but you are one of us now." As the twin suns slowly rose, the enemy arrived. Hundreds of Syndicate soldiers lined the cliffs. Hover tanks floated forward. Drones hovered like angry wasps. In front of them, Commander Varric stood tall, his red armor glowing in the morning light. His voice echoed across the basin through a loudspeaker. "Give us the child, and we may let the rest live." Ethan stepped forward, raising his voice. "You're not taking her." Varric laughed coldly. "Do you think your little group can stop my army?" Ethan spoke with calm strength. "We're not just fighting for one child. We're fighting for every hybrid family you've ever hunted." The hybrids cheered softly. Standing together behind him, Varric raised his arm. "Then you all die." The attack began. Syndicate soldiers charged down the cliffs. Drones fired from above. The hybrids fought fiercely, using every trap Ethan had prepared. Exploding vines wrapped around soldiers. Crystal spikes shot up from hidden pits. Plasma arrows rained down from the cliffs. Ethan fired his blaster, moving quickly between cover, taking down several hundreds. Mira fought beside him, her plasma bow glowing brightly. She moved like a shadow, striking enemies with precise shots. Despite their courage, the Syndicate forces kept coming. The hover tanks pushed forward, blasting through defensive walls. "We can't hold them forever." One hybrid warrior shouted. Ethan's mind raced. He scanned the battlefield, looking for a weakness. Then he saw it, a narrow canyon behind. The enemy tanks, a small energy generator controlled their shields. "If we take out that generator, their tanks are vulnerable." Ethan shouted. Mira nodded. "I'll lead the warriors. Cover us." Ethan laid heavy fire toward the tanks while Mira and a group of hybrids slipped through the canyon. Explosions lit up the sky as Syndicate soldiers fell. Finally, Mira reached the generator and planted explosives. She triggered the charges. A huge blast rocked the ground. The tank shields dropped instantly. "Now," Ethan yelled. The hybrids focused their fire, taking down the remaining tanks one by one. The battlefield grew silent as the last hover tank exploded. The Syndicate soldiers, now leaderless, hesitated. Fear spread among them. Ethan raised his blaster and shouted, "Leave now or be destroyed." The soldiers dropped their weapons and ran, disappearing into the cliffs. Only Commander Varric remained, standing alone, his red armor scorched, but still functional. "You think you've won, human?" Varric growled. Ethan stepped forward. "It's over." Varric drew his blade and charged, moving fast. Ethan dodged and fired, but Varric's armor deflected the shots. They struggled fiercely, exchanging blows. Ethan barely avoided the sharp blade, but Varric struck his side, cutting through his uniform. Mira screamed, rushing forward to help. Varric raised his blade for a final strike, but before he could finish, a small voice cried out behind him, "Stop!" Lana stood there, holding her crystal. Her little hands glowed softly as the crystal pulsed with strange energy. The energy spread into the air, creating a soft blue field. Varric froze, unable to move. His armor locked as strange forces wrapped around him. The hybrids watched in awe. Mira whispered, "Her power. She doesn't even know what she's doing." Varric dropped his blade, trapped, his angry face twisted in shock. Lana looked at her father with wide, innocent eyes. "Daddy, is it safe now?" Ethan smiled, breathing heavily. "Yes, sweetheart, you're safe." The battle was over, but far above, the galaxy had already started watching. The story of a human father, an alien mother, and a brave little hybrid girl had just begun to spread across the stars. *The siege*. The Syndicate forces had been defeated for now, but everyone in the refuge knew this was not the end. As the hybrids gathered to repair the broken defenses, scouts returned with troubling news. Massive Syndicate warships had entered the system. The real army was coming, not bounty hunters, but full military forces. This time, there would be no escape. Inside the main council chamber, the hybrid leaders met with Ethan and Mira. The atmosphere was heavy. They would destroy everything, one elder said softly. Mira's face remained strong. We knew this day would come. Sora, the elder leader, looked at Ethan. What do we do? Human, you brought this war to our doorstep. Ethan stood calmly. I didn't bring the war. The Syndicate brought it the moment they began hunting your children. His voice grew stronger. But I won't let them take Lana, and I won't let them destroy your home. The council sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Sora nodded. Then we fight. Preparations began immediately. Ethan organized the hybrids into battle groups. Using every resource they had, the refuge wasn't designed for war, but its people were strong. They built barricades, reinforced energy shields, and planted traps throughout the valley. Mira activated ancient defense systems buried deep beneath the village. Living roots and vines controlled by bioenergy that would respond during the attack. Even the hybrid children helped, carrying supplies and running messages between defenders. Lana stayed close to Ethan, watching him work, her small eyes full of trust. That night, as the two moons rose, Ethan sat beside Lana near the glowing lake. She looked up at him softly. Daddy, will you leave after the fight? Ethan gently pulled her into his lap. No, sweetheart, I'm staying with you, forever. Lana smiled and rested her head against his chest. Valara watched quietly, her heart full. For the first time in years, they felt like a real family, but far above. The Syndicate ships blocked the stars. The siege was about to begin. The next morning, the sky turned dark as the massive warships moved into position. Dropships poured down from the clouds, releasing thousands of soldiers, war droids, and heavy tanks. Commander Varric had returned, but this time, he brought the full might of the Syndicate military. Surround the refuge, Varric ordered. No one escapes. Inside the refuge, Ethan stood tall beside Mira and Sora. This is it, Ethan said. Hold the line. Protect the children. We don't break. The first wave of Syndicate soldiers stormed forward, their blasters lighting up the valley. Plasma beams tore through the air. Explosions rocked the ground. The hybrids fired back fiercely. Using energy bows, plasma rifles, and bioweapons, vines burst from the ground, wrapping around enemy soldiers, slamming them into rocks. Mira led the first defensive wall, her plasma bow glowing brightly. She fired arrow after arrow, striking enemy leaders with perfect aim. Ethan coordinated the traps, luring Syndicate tanks into narrow canyons where the walls collapsed onto them. But the Syndicate kept pushing. Wave after wave of soldiers advanced. Fall. Back to the inner wall. Ethan shouted. The defenders moved back, setting off new traps as they retreated. The hybrid warriors fought bravely, side by side with Ethan inside the safe chamber. Lana and the hybrid children watched the battle from the monitors. Lana's hands trembled as she saw the explosions. Mira's voice came through the calm. Stay safe, my little one. But then, a group of Syndicate war droids broke through a side wall, rushing toward the children's chamber. Lana saw them coming. Without thinking, she stood up, holding her glowing crystal tightly. The energy inside it pulsed stronger than ever. The crystal lit up the entire chamber with a blue wave of light. The war droids froze, their systems shutting down instantly. The hybrid children stared in awe as the machines fell to the ground, completely disabled. Outside, Ethan saw the same blue wave ripple across the valley, disrupting Syndicate equipment. What is that? One hybrid warrior gasped. Mira smiled faintly through her calm. Lana, she's using her gift. The Syndicate's forces stumbled as their targeting systems failed. Their drones crashed from the sky, and tanks lost power. Commander Varric shouted in anger. Reboot everything, break through, but it was delayed. With the Syndicate systems disabled, the hybrid defenders pushed forward. Warriors charged into the stunned enemy ranks, driving them back. Ethan led the charge, his blaster firing as the enemy retreated. The Syndicate soldiers panicked. Their mighty war machines had become useless. The second wave broke completely. Finally, Commander Varric's remaining forces fled to their dropships, retreating to orbit. The battlefield grew silent. The refuge had survived. As the sun rose over the valley, Ethan found Lana running toward him, her little arms wide open. "Daddy, we won." He knelt and scooped her into his arms, holding her tightly. "You are amazing, sweetheart." The hybrids cheered. Families reunited. Tears flowed freely. For the first time in years, they were free, but far beyond. The story of this small girl and her human father was already spreading across the stars. The galaxy was watching. The new family asterisk. The days after the battle were filled with new hope. The refuge, once hidden in fear, now stood openly under the bright twin suns. The broken walls were rebuilt stronger. But now they stood not as barriers but as symbols of survival. Everywhere, hybrid families walked freely in the open air. Laughter returned to the valley. The children, who once hid in underground chambers, now played under the tall glowing trees. But far beyond the valley, across the stars, their stories spread like a wildfire. News channels on both human and alien worlds showed images of the battle, of Lana's powerful gift, and of the human officer who had stood to protect hybrids when no one else would. Debates exploded in the galactic councils. For decades, both human and alien governments had turned a blind eye to the syndicate's illegal hybrid slavery. But now, they were forced to face the truth. Massive protests erupted on many planets. Civilians demanded justice for hybrid families. The syndicate leaders, once protected by corruption, were arrested or fled into hiding. The galaxy had changed. Inside the council dome at the refuge, leaders from across different species gathered. For the first time, humans, hybrids, and alien leaders stood together. Sora, the hybrid elder, turned to Ethan. "You have done more than save your daughter. You saved all of us." Ethan stood humbly. "I only did what any father would do." Human ambassador spoke next. "The Galactic Council formally recognizes the rights of hybrids as full citizens. There will be no more hiding, no more slavery, no more fear." The chamber filled with applause. Mira stood beside Ethan, her green eyes full of pride, and between them stood Lana, holding both their hands tightly. The ceremony ended. Outside, celebrations filled the valley. That evening, under the glowing sky, Ethan sat beside a small campfire, with Mira resting beside him and Lana curled up in his lap. Lana looked up at her father. "Is the bad man gone forever?" Ethan smiled gently. "Yes, sweetheart. He's gone. You don't have to be scared anymore." She snuggled closer, her little voice soft. "And you're staying with me forever, right?" Ethan kissed her forehead. "Forever." Mira's voice was full of quiet joy. "We're a family now." The three sat together, watching the stars above. The darkness that once ruled their lives was gone, replaced with light, laughter, and love. The next morning, as ships arrived from across the galaxy, more hybrid families came out of hiding. They reunited with lost loved ones, standing together proudly. The refuge would no longer be a secret camp. It would become a new home, a place where all species could live together. News reporters from every system arrived, capturing the historic moment. Images of Ethan holding Lana's hand played on every screen. One reporter spoke into the camera. "A human risked everything to save a small hybrid girl. His courage sparked a movement that will change the galaxy forever." The father, who stepped forward when no one else did. Later, as the celebrations continued, Sora approached Ethan privately. "You could return to Earth now. You would be honored as a hero," she said. Ethan looked at Mira and Lana playing together nearby. "My place is here." Sora smiled. "You've given us hope, and you've given your daughter a future." Ethan watched Lana laugh and run through the tall glowing flowers, his chest filled with warmth. He whispered softly to himself, "I didn't find her. She found me." As night fell again, Mira sat beside him, wrapping her arm around his. "The galaxy is changing," she whispered, "and we're part of it." Ethan replied. The stars above shimmered brightly. Somewhere out there, people still argued, still debated, still resisted change. But here, in this small valley, a new life had begun. One little voice had changed everything. The galaxy would never forget. A small caged alien girl whispered, "Can I have a dad now?" And one human said, "Yes." And together, they changed the stars.